So a person then who's become so happy being unhappy, that familiar feeling in them is something that they enjoy feeling because they don't know who they would be if they didn't feel that feeling. Because the suffering, and I'm not saying this is for everybody, that person gets attention from it, gets people to visit, gets whatever they need. But in a sense, they also have relationships where they love to share the same emotions. And if you share the same experiences, you share the same emotions. So, Mark, let's get on the phone and let's complain for the next 30 minutes about how miserable life is. And then I'll try to top you and you try to top me. And we're using each other to reaffirm some type of conditioning, right? So it becomes the identity. So then let's just say you decide to stop blaming, stop complaining, stop making excuses, stop feeling sorry for yourself, stop talking trash, stop commiserating. You just say, I'm going to quit that. In the first hour, you do really well. So what does the body say? The body starts influencing the mind, and it starts calling up circuits in the brain that are connected to that emotion that you've been using all along. So then you start thinking about all the reasons you're unhappy. Now that thought leads to a choice. That choice leads to the same behavior. The same behavior creates the same experience, and the same experience produces the same feeling and the same emotion, and that same emotion starts to influence the very same thought. And now the person returns back to their same biology, and the health condition will always be there because it's the environment that looks like it's signaling the gene. But it's the emotion. So then if the person all of a sudden says, okay, I'm going to do my meditation, and you do your meditation at 11 o'clock in the morning. And that's normally when you get on your emails and start judging people. Your body's going to say you're out of schedule. So the process of change requires then not only addressing the mind, which is the thought, but also the emotion that's conditioned into the body. And if you break it down for people, they'll be able to distinguish in the process of change. Oh my God. Like I'm fasting from a breaking an addiction. You know, your body's craving. I just got to suffer a little bit with somebody, and it wants to suffer, and you got to be able to work with it, and not just to sit there and white knuckle it. To learn how to self-regulate, to learn how to make those changes with your eyes open. That's when it matters the most. You practice meditation with your eyes closed. You take your body out for a test drive during the day with your eyes open, and you work on staying conscious. Yeah. So the first thing is that people have this very strong belief that there was some innate intelligence within them that was giving them life. There's some energy, some force of life that made them more vitalistic and less mechanistic. Whether it was spiritual, whatever they wanted to call it, that there was some power within them that they acknowledged that was giving them life. The second thing was, they realized it was their own mismanagement of their thoughts and their actions and their emotions that created their health condition. They realized, I actually had a strong part in this, and they started taking responsibility. Wow. And really they decided, I got to break the habit of being myself. Now, they really said, if I'm going to live the next part of my life with this health condition, I don't want to live like that person any longer. If I only have 6 months to live, I don't want to live that way. So they started becoming conscious of their unconscious self, and so conscious that they didn't want to go unconscious. And then they started thinking, number 3, if I actually had a new lease on life, if I actually could heal, if I actually could live another year, how would I live my life? Now, they didn't say I'm going to be the same person. They said, how do I want to think? How do I want to act? How do I want to feel? And exactly how I described, they went into an inward process, not even a meditation, just what do I want to tell myself? And let me repeat it. How do I want to live with my family? How do I want to eat dinner? What emotions do I want to feel? And they started changing their personality. They started reinventing a new self. And then the last thing that they had in common is that they started noticing when they would close their eyes and do this, they lost track of space and time. That they thought it was like 15 minutes that went by or 20 minutes that went by. And in actuality, it was an hour and 20 minutes that went by. They had no sense of space and time in their inner process. And I was interested in demystifying the process because I wanted to see if we could teach that process that worked with sick people on other people, and it worked. I studied this extensively because we actually we did an experiment. We took a group of people that came to our event, and we did all kinds of brain measurements on them, and then we put heart rate variability devices on them, and we asked them to trade emotions like fear or anger or resentment or impatience or frustration, and stop feeling those feelings, and just for a few times a day to feel gratitude. And we would talk them through it just for 15 minutes, 10 or 15 minutes, 2-3 times a day. At the end of 4 days, we were looking to measure if there were any significant changes in their immune regulation. And we found out that the body started producing 50% more of a chemical called IgA, immunoglobulin A, the body's natural antiviral, antibacterial, natural flu shot. Yeah. And so when you are receiving something favorable, or you just receive something enjoyable, if something wonderful just happened to you, or something really amazing is happening to you, you feel grateful. So the emotional signature of gratitude is something amazing is happening to you, or it just happened to you, right? So it's the ultimate state of receiving emotionally. So if you can teach a person to truly practice gratitude, there'll be significant changes in the way their heart thumps, the way it beats, and what it starts to do to the brain. We've studied this thousands of times. So when you start feeling grateful, your heart starts beating in a rhythm that begins to influence or inform the brain that it's safe to create. It's believing in that moment that it's safe to be out of survival. And practice that enough times, the body starts to regenerate. So we saw changes in immune regulation. We saw changes in gene expression. Why? Because the body's believing it's living in an environment where the person's dreams have already happened. Now, we only accept, believe, and surrender to thoughts that are equal to our emotional state. We never accept, believe, and surrender to thoughts that are not equal to our emotional state. And this is why affirmations don't work. You could say, I'm healthy, I'm healthy, I'm healthy, I'm healthy, I'm wealthy, I'm wealthy, I'm wealthy, I'm wealthy, I'm free, I'm free, I'm free. And your body's going, no, you're not. You're miserable. So the thought never makes it past the brainstem to the body. Teach a person to change from fear and break that conditioning and practice with enough times creating the same feeling of gratitude as automatically as they did with fear. It makes sense then that in a very short amount of time, you can see very significant changes in how the body regulates and how it functions. And the heart then starts to beat in this beautiful, beautiful coherent state. And so we started looking to see if teaching people how to do that and sustaining it, if it made significant changes. And without a doubt, when we accept, believe, and surrender to the thoughts that are equal to the emotional state of gratitude, that information programs the autonomic nervous system into a different destiny. Yeah. So then teach a person how to be in a state of receivership and gratitude. They can program their brain and body a lot quicker than when they're feeling fear and anger, because you get the diagnosis. The moment you get the diagnosis, you notice a change in your internal state. You're changed. Yeah. And when you notice that change in your internal state, the brain freezes a frame and takes a snapshot, and that's called a long-term memory. So the doctor says, you have 6 months to live, you have this condition, this is what happened, and all that information's going in because it's equal to the emotion of fear. So and to get the person out of that state, because that's a state of survival and you're losing energy in the body. And in gratitude, you're regenerating energy. So get the person to a state of gratitude and then teach them how to program their brain and body. Then you start seeing changes in their autonomic nervous system.